This half hour on Montana This Morning, decision time. City commissioners come to a conclusion on school resource officers for the fall semester. Plus,
what happens if your child's school shuts down because of a COVID outbreak and you can't go to work? Coming up, we take a closer look at the laws that could help you keep your job if you're forced to stay home with your kids.
And later, keeping your garden going during this July heat. Montana This Morning starts now.
From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Good morning to you. We're glad to have you with us. Struggling over here.
Yeah,
like
my
normal?
IFB was popping out of my ear.
Oh.
Yeah, I can't have that.
Can't have that, no.
Can't have that. I have enough struggles as is.
You doing okay
I can't
over there?
lose sound, huh?
You doing okay over there?
Yeah, doing well.
Yeah.
Doing very well. How are you doing?
I'm good, yeah.
Did you sleep well?
I did sleep well.
Good restful evening?
Yeah, more so than normal, actually.
That's good.
A little bit longer than normal.
Yeah, actually, I'm doing well this week. 2 nights of like nothing is normal about the
Nothing's
sleep schedule
normal on
this
schedule,
shift,
right.
But more normal, like actually getting to bed on time.
I mean, I could still go for a nap right now, but that's kind of always the case.
Accurate. I hear you there. Well, anywho, currently on the U.S. Bank ICAM that's not with us right now, 62 degrees. Calm winds, pretty low humidity levels to start things out here this morning. As for the capital, 69 degrees right now. Dew point temperature at 49 degrees, and wind out of the northwest there. Pretty minimal though. And downtown Fort Benton waking up to 64 degrees right now. Dew point temperature there at 63. As for your fishing forecast, as we head forward here through the week, tracking the low 90s again today. Big high pressure ridge keeping us hot and dry. I told you it's going to be a pretty lackluster forecast here this week, and really not a lot of change. High pressure continues to build, pushing us into extreme heat, and we do have a storm potential pretty much every evening. Most of that staying out of our area. A little closer look at that coming up shortly. Shannon.
Jason, thank you. Congress is racing to agree on and pass a new coronavirus relief bill before a month-long recess in August. Republicans unveiled details on their plan, the HEALS Act. It stands for Health, Economic Assistance, Liability Protection, and Schools. It includes another round of stimulus checks, reduces enhanced unemployment benefits to $200, and allocates billions for testing and reopening schools. The bill is expected to evolve quite a bit in the next few days as Republicans and Democrats craft a final bill they can all agree on, and that gets the White House's approval. Right now, Montana has 1,195 active cases of COVID-19. Cascade County has 71 active cases. Lewis and Clark has 70. Hill County sitting at 25. Teton County now down to 0 active cases. 2,182 people have recovered so far. The Helena City Commission has decided to continue the school resource officer program for 1 year and conduct an extended review of the program before proposing a new model for the future. The commission backed a proposal from Commissioner Emily Dean. It calls for the city to maintain armed officers in Helena Public Schools for now, and for staff to work on an updated agreement with the Helena School District to take effect by June 30th, 2021. It came after they voted 3-2 against a proposal from Commissioner Heather O'Loughlin that would have ended the SRO program as of December 31st. Last month, the commission temporarily delayed $292,000 in funding to the Helena Police Department until after a community discussion on the SRO program. City leaders heard testimony for and against school resource officers during 2 public meetings earlier this month. Supporters say SROs improve school safety and form important relationships with many students. Opponents say they aren't necessary for security and that they create a less welcoming environment, particularly for Black and Indigenous students. Well, as schools across Montana eye how to start back up in the fall, we all have questions. But for teachers who are looking to stay safe and do their job, there's even more pressure. MTN's Andy Curtis explains how.
Teachers, bus drivers, and administrators across Montana and the country all want to get back to work safely. But returning to traditional classroom settings during a pandemic is a complicated subject, because it's not just the students teachers will have to worry about this year.
Our most at-risk members cannot go into a brick and mortar building if their doctor tells them not to. And if they're caring for a parent or a child or a family member who's at risk, the level of precaution that they have to take going to work and going between work and home is a really high concern for folks who maybe are healthy themselves but have to consider the health of a household member.
Weighing financial responsibilities and health concerns will require some flexibility from educators, and the Montana Federation of Public Employees is currently surveying their members to see what they expect this school year. And according to Curtis, options for teachers who can't return to in-person classrooms because of health concerns will be based on each individual, and that is not an easy decision.
There's a lot of anxiety right now in the education community, and I mean everywhere. We're all surviving this pandemic together. We're going to get through it. Montana's tough, and MFPE members are some of the toughest.
They will have to be, with an uncertain school year ahead of us. Reporting from Helena, Andy Curtis, MTN News.
Now, this story is part of our Safely Back to School series. This week, we're going deep on the topic of schools reopening with the intent of giving parents, teachers, and school leaders the knowledge they need to make the right decisions for themselves on returning to the classroom next month. Well, Hart Butte Public Schools has created a plan to deliver K-12 instruction for this upcoming academic year. Hart Butte Public Schools will take a phased approach to reopening. In Phase 0 and until further notice provided by the Blackfeet tribe, the district will offer distance learning services with a constant monitoring of developments in this ongoing pandemic. We spoke with Mike Tatsy, who's the superintendent of Hart Butte. He tells us education was essential, but the well-being of kids is their top priority. Tatsy says each student should have a Chromebook with them to take home and are working on setting up areas with hotspots and are prepared to pay for internet access at different homes. Well, what happens when your child gets sick and you can't work? What if your child's school shuts down because of COVID? They are questions that many families are struggling with as this new school year approaches. And this morning, as so many of you think about getting your children safely back to school, Chris Conti takes a closer look at parents' rights when it comes to your job and family.
And the yard's been a godsend.
Okay. The constant back and forth of a summer consumed with COVID
This has been a summer of popsicles.
has left Acacia Clark and her 3 boys stuck in a state of uncertainty.
I made a decision early on that I was going to try to keep working, and it's been mostly leaving them to their own devices.
This realtor and her husband are both still working, but juggling her business and the kids has proven nearly impossible.
My focus, for my work has been abysmal. So I haven't been able to focus. I'll get in, a few minutes here, a few minutes there, but it's very stressful.
As empty classrooms start to fill back up, Acacia and other parents across the country are stuck, wondering what might happen if their kids catch COVID and they can't work. Chris Fuedo is an employment attorney.
If kids can't go back to school, parents can't go back to work full time.
In March, Congress passed the Family's First Coronavirus Response Act. It gives parents 2 weeks of paid sick leave if you find yourself having to quarantine. Parents also get 2 weeks of paid sick leave at 2/3 your regular salary if your child's school or daycare shuts down because of COVID. And it guarantees 10 weeks of leave at 2/3 your salary if you need to take care of a sick child. Those benefits will run out on December 31st. Another big problem facing parents right now, many have already exhausted all of their leave. So if you do find yourself having to ask your boss for more flexibility, the best advice is to have a plan.
Come up with your plan and say, hey, listen, this is the most that I can do for my employer, or this is how I can do everything I need to do for the employer while still be there for my family.
It's more than being stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's just being in a hard place constantly and not even having a light at the end of the tunnel.
And with a new school year on the horizon, Acacia Clark and parents everywhere are trying to manage whatever the pandemic throws their way.
This is a new normal for years to come.
I'm Chris Conti reporting.
And it's important to know that under the Family's First Coronavirus Response Act, it is illegal to fire someone because they need to take care of their family due to COVID. Well, it's Tuesday morning. Time now is 5:09. Coming up, some good news for sports teams in Montana. We'll have more up next in Game Changers.
And later in your weather forecast, as the high temperatures continue to build, or as temperatures continue to climb, we are looking at a heightened fire danger into north central Montana right now along the High Line and the Cut Bank region. As for the fire weather forecast, getting hot in that region. Also seeing those humidity levels continuing to drop down into the teens this afternoon with 90s for daytime highs in Cut Bank. Your forecast is coming up shortly.
From MTN News, You're watching Montana This Morning.
Welcome back. A live look on this Tuesday morning over the capital city. Time now is 5:12. We're glad to have you along. Our sports team received some good news this morning when the MHSA released return to play protocols. So while Tom and Cece Wiley are counting down the days until high school sports return, they've added a few more sports highlights in this week's Game Changers.
Hey everybody, we're thrilled about the news that high school sports might be moving forward in the state of Montana. We got Friday nights upcoming. Cece and I are so thrilled we found some of our favorite moments, and we're going to put them together for you in our top 5 moments of the week. Yay! We've started creating our own sports in the Wiley household. Check out Cece's skills when it comes to stacking rings. At number 5, real sports. The women's amateur tournament in Bozeman. Here's champion Annika Dannenhauer finding the range for birdie on the par 3 16th hole. The MSU sophomore would go on to win by 5 strokes. At number 4, Lewis and Clark County 4-H held its annual livestock sale with animals going at a good price. All the hard work these kids put in during the year finally paying off. At number 3, the first food truck frenzy in Great Falls was a success. In addition to delicious food, donations and essential items went to benefit Stand Up for Students. At number 2, the Facebook group Medical Mask for Great Falls was recognized by the City Commission this week after it went from 10 members to over 900. They've all contributed masks for first responders and other charitable organizations. And at number 1, Major League Baseball returned this week, and Missoula native Cody Hoyer became just the 24th Montana-born player to suit up for a big league team when he pitched a perfect inning of relief in the White Sox season opener. Please send us your video. Just shoot us an email to sports@krtv.com or homehighlights@krtv.com. Cece and I will do our best to feature them every Monday on Game Changers. Reporting from home, Tom Wiley, Cece Wiley, MTN News.
Well, part of the River's Edge Trail in Great Falls is temporarily closed for construction. The section is located between the Black Eagle Dam and Giant Springs Road on the south side of the Missouri River. The city had tried some temporary repairs after a 2019 landslide on the trail. The construction should restore the trail embankment and surface back to its original condition and help prevent future landslides. It's expected to take up to 45 days.
Well, up next, your weather forecast. We are tracking hot and dry weather as we head through the work week here. We're looking at 66 degrees by about 8 a.m. Couple of clouds kind of building into the region today as a couple of showers will try to move in, most of which are going to stay to our south. Still very, very hot this afternoon, 67 in the capital, 83 by the noon hour, and a little bit cloudy this afternoon again as a little bit of that moisture tries to make its way in. We'll break down these incoming systems and let you know how hot it's going to be next.
Stormtracker Weather starts now with Jason Laird.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. Well, going to be tracking another hot day today. We're already sitting at 67 in the capital right now, 59 in Great Falls, so very mild morning all across the board. Bone dry in northeastern Montana. You'll notice a couple of little showers trying to make their way into southwestern Montana this morning. We'll have a little bit better chance of some scattered, isolated showers this afternoon. So high pressure is still going to dominate our forecast today, but it is going to shift a little bit further east, and that's going to open up the door for a couple of showers to try and make their way into the state, most of which are going to stay down into south central Montana, southwestern Montana. Looking at about 91 degrees for your daytime high in the capital, 94 in Great Falls today, mid 90s to high 90s along the high line. So very, very hot one on tap, especially for eastern Montana. Those overnight lows continuing to trend rather mild for us. 59 degrees as you look into the capital right now, about 59 or tonight, I should say, in the capital, looking at the mid-60s for overnight lows in northeastern Montana as well. As for tomorrow's future track, again, high pressure is going to dominate. I didn't put it on the map because I wanted to be able to kind of show you exactly how things are going to play out here, but these little white lines, those are the pressure levels. They're going to continue to build throughout the day. Much like today, we are going to be looking at some scattered showers, thunderstorms moving up from southwestern Montana. Tomorrow, Wednesday, will be the best chance of actually seeing some of those showers showers make their way through Great Falls, but they're expected to be very isolated, very scattered. But again, the biggest concern there is lightning with the drying conditions out there due to all the heat. Tomorrow we should see 92 in Great Falls, 88 in the capital, mid-90s again in northeastern Montana, and by Thursday, about 93 in Great Falls, 92 in the capital, and still flirting with the triple digits throughout the eastern plains. So really a hot couple of days. And we've had high pressure all week. We're up to Thursday morning now. That ridge is just going to continue to amplify, and that is going to pretty much hold all the moisture at bay. However, this area of low pressure off the coast is going to kind of shoot a little batch of energy or two our way. So pretty much every afternoon as we head toward the weekend will present the chance of maybe a few isolated showers, thunderstorms throughout the area, but very minimal, more or less scattered and pretty widespread in nature. And you notice that ridge takes us through the weekend and sticks with us into the first part of this next week. And early forecast models are suggesting that area of low pressure may break things down a little bit by first part of next week or so, but we'll kind of see how that plays out for us. Again, on the 6 to 10 day outlook, we are trending hotter than average across the board and quite a bit drier than average across the board. Later in the show, we'll give you a little bit of an idea of how the drought monitor is shaping up throughout the state. 94 degrees today in Great Falls, looking at the 90s through pretty much the remainder of the work week, and still looking at the 90s this weekend as well. As for the capital, 91 degrees, little bit of a cool down due to that increase in cloud cover on Wednesday and a couple spotty storms, but following that, the 90s. Shannon.
All right, Jason, thanks. And temperatures in the 90s can take a toll, of course, on people and pets. It can also affect our plants and trees. Some gardening experts at 40 Nursery say watering plants, trees, and shrubs, of course, is key during extreme heat. They say plants with deep root systems need more water than a sprinkler system can provide. They advise bringing out the gardening hose, putting it on low, and letting the water sink into the ground. 40 Nursery also says to be wary of wind, which can dry those plants out. One thing that helps keep trees and shrubbery healthy and hydrated is mulch.
It helps keep that moisture in, so when you do water, it holds the moisture in a little bit longer than it typically would if you didn't have the mulch around, and it also just overall keeps that root system more cool.
And of course, potted and porched plants need plenty of water every day. Well, still to come here on Montana this morning, these robots known as Fluffy and Spot are actually helping put machines together. We'll show you how next.
From MTN News, you're watching Montana This Morning.
Welcome back. It's 5:24, so check out these mobile robots that Ford is using to map one of its plants in Michigan. They look, at least a little bit like dogs, maybe.
Yeah, they're so creepy looking. Well, anywho, Ford Motor Company leased the robots named Fluffy and Spot. From Boston Dynamics. Fluffy and Spot use laser scanners and high-definition cameras to collect data in dangerous and tough-to-reach areas.
They can sit, stand, and even climb. Engineers control them by remote. The robots are part of a pilot program to update Ford's plants. They have already scanned 2 facilities. Ford says the robots...
Oh my gosh.
It looks like it's dancing. They say the robots can save a lot of time and money and could help bring products to market faster.
Yeah, I think they should concentrate on using them for the military.
Oh.
Wouldn't that make more sense? Forget about
Well, they probably are. They're
killing,
just taking over.
Forget about killing American jobs on a daily basis, Ford Motor Company. Why don't you take all that time and effort and use it for military? That would be perfect for that.
I mean, that's probably happening.
Well, it probably is, but again, they put all their time and money into saving the bottom dollar instead of actually...
It does.
Frustrating. They are cool, though. Sorry, I don't mean to be such a Debbie Downer at 5.
Well, it does say, too, that it's in some of these, harder... Trying to give the benefit out here. Some of the harder, more dangerous spots in the plants is where they send these robots.
Okay. Okay. The whole plant is
creepy.
Robot anyways.
Yeah.
What is the robot gonna do? That I don't know.
Look creepy.
All I'm saying is use your time and resources to help out the military in that sense. Instead of putting soldiers in a dangerous situation, take your little robot and send it in.
They're
Wouldn't
probably
that
working
make more
on that.
Sense?
I would guess that they're working on that.
No, they're working on putting them in their plants.
Well, Ford,
kill more American jobs. Anyways, okay, all right, I'm off my soapbox now.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, fire variables today. It is going to be hot. A lot of dry air, wind not really a factor, and we're still keeping an eye on the fuel load out there. Again, vegetation is starting to dry out, but it's not really to that critical point yet where we're overly concerned about it. So kind of the big picture, again, just high pressure is going to continue to amplify across the board over the next couple of days. That is going to keep us very hot and very dry as we head toward the weekend. And as you notice, it's pretty much not going anywhere. I mean, it's really sticking with us here up through even the first part of this next week. So today, 94 degrees, partly cloudy. We will see a little bit of an increase in clouds throughout central Montana, as there is a possibility of some showers, thunderstorms into southwestern Montana and a couple into northeastern Montana as well. 91 in Cut Bank.
Well, one pizza company is looking for thousands of delivery drivers, and Walmart and Kroger are shaking up the dairy industry.
Yeah, Jane King is in New York with those stories and more.
Americans' thirst for cheap milk and grocers' rush to provide it are remaking the dairy industry. The Wall Street Journal reports major grocery retailers, including Kroger, Walmart, and Albertsons, have built their own milk bottling plants. While this keeps milk prices low for shoppers, it does threaten the big milk companies like Borden and Dean Foods. Well, BMW is opening up a new front in its battle with Tesla, offering an all-electric 5 Series sedan. According to Reuters, BMW plans to have almost 5 million fully electric vehicles on the road in 10 years. That works out to about 500,000 new EVs sold each year between now and 2030. Well, Volkswagen and Porsche paid out $9.5 billion to defrauded Dieselgate drivers. Volkswagen marketed clean diesel vehicles that actually spewed out illegal levels of pollutants and were specifically programmed to cheat on emissions tests to hide the problem. The deceptive engines were used in Volkswagens, Audis, and Porsches, and then the truth came out in 2015. And Papa John's looking to hire an additional 10,000 workers over the next 10 months to meet the increased delivery demand brought on by the pandemic. The company is seeking to fill roles for delivery drivers, pizza makers, shift leads, customer service, and managers. From New York, I'm Jane King with your Ag and Energy Report.
This half hour in Montana this morning, decision time. City commissioners come to a conclusion on school resource officers for the fall semester in Helena. Plus, the Great Falls Police Department plans to release more information about traffic stops. And later, keep an eye out for scams, what to watch out for as fraudsters try to take advantage of you during the pandemic. Montana This Morning starts now.
From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Good morning to you. We're glad to have you with us. It is Tuesday morning, July 28th. I'm Shannon New.
I'm Jason Laird, and we've been talking about it all week. Well, I guess we're two days into the week.
So for a day now.
But last week we were talking about it too. Very, very hot conditions are going to pretty much take us through the week. We've got this massive high pressure ridge, which is just like a big dome, camped out over top of the state. It's not really going anywhere. So the forecast, as we were saying yesterday, pretty much the same every single day.
Okay, so
yeah, so I'm more than happy to jet out for the remainder of the week. That's cool with me. All right, temperatures, check it out, 67 in the capital right now. Very, very mild. I'm sure that blew my overnight low out of the water. I'm not exactly sure why it's staying so warm there, but 59 in Great Falls, 61 right now in Lewistown. Glasgow sitting at about 58. Current conditions around Great Falls on the U.S. Bank ICAM that's not with us here this morning. Calm winds, humidity level at about 52%. As for the capital here, we're looking at 69 degrees again, so kind of varied between downtown and the airport a little bit there. As for today's UV index, though, check it out, 8, very high, not quite as high as yesterday. We're going to see a little bit of an increase in cloud cover today, as there is a little bit of moisture to work with moving into the state. We'll kind of talk about that more coming up in Maine weather. But long story short, high pressure equaling extreme heat, and pretty much every afternoon and evening this week, we are going to have the possibility of some very isolated storms. We'll give you a little closer look at that very shortly. Shannon.
Jason, thank you. Right now, Montana has 1,195 active cases of COVID. Cascade County has 71 active cases. Lewis and Clark has 70. Hill County sitting at 25. Teton County now has 0 active cases. 2,182 people have recovered so far. Montana's high schools woke up to some good news on Monday morning as the Montana High School Association announced it's moving forward with fall activities. The MHSA released those guidelines. The governing body of the Montana High School sports announced a 5-tier plan. The number of fans will be determined by each school. Officials say the guidelines will lead to a successful athletic year for Montana's schools and athletes.
Tier 1, we're starting. We have all these restrictions and requirements and considerations in place. But let's say we have an interruption. Then we can look at Tier 2 where we're going to cancel non-conference games. If we have a longer interruption, then we can look at Tier 3 where we cancel all non-conference games and shorten the conference schedules. Tier 4 would be even a longer, maybe we start and play for quite a while and then get a real long interruption. Then we're going to have to look at shortening that conference season, maybe even ending it at that time, and look at different playoff formats. You know, are we going to have divisional and district volleyball tournaments at one side, or are we going to do a playoff? Tier 5 is where it's been, you know, maybe a tough year like this spring was, but we can maybe have some kind of play at the end and maybe even look at a postseason.
And for all the information on how the plan will work, you can go ahead to montanasports.com. The Helena City Commission has decided to continue the School Resource Officer program for 1 year. They plan to conduct an extended review of the program before proposing a new model for the future. MTN's Jonathan Ambarian reports on what the next steps will be after this decision.
After about a month of considering the future of the 4 armed police officers in Helena Public Schools, the Helena City Commission has decided not to make an immediate change in the School Resource Officer program this year, and to plan to update the city's agreement with the district by next school year. They backed a proposal by Commissioner Emily Dean, who said stakeholders like the school district, mental health providers, students and families needed more time to work together on a new plan for the future. Dean's proposal does not guarantee an end to the SRO program.
This puts it in the district's hands and the stakeholders' hands to decide what the path forward is. If that means, all stakeholders come to the table and at the end we say we are going to redefine what the role of SROs are in schools, great. If it means the district says, you know what, maybe we do just need 2 SROs, great.
This came after the commission voted 3-2 against a proposal from Commissioner Heather O'Loughlin that would have definitively ended the SRO program after December 31st and directed 2 additional patrol officers to focus on schools. O'Loughlin said she's concerned after this extended process there won't be substantial enough changes to address the concerns advocates have raised.
My sense is that the desire may be to maintain physical police presence in schools. And I think it's unfortunate that we couldn't really make a clear statement today about that.
Opponents of SROs have said the officers aren't needed for security and that they create a less welcoming environment, particularly for Black and Indigenous students. Supporters of the program argued SROs do improve safety and that they form important relationships with students. In Helena, Jonathan Ambarian, MTN News.
After the Black Lives Matters Forum in Great Falls this past weekend, the Great Falls Police Department addressed some concerns surrounding traffic stop data in the city. The department typically does not publish their year-end reports online, but they'll be changing that soon. GFPD Public Information Officer Doug Otto told MTN that those reports should be available online by the end of this week. Data will go back to at least the last 2 to 3 years and possibly as far back as 2014. They're also evaluating how they collect data to make sure those reports are accurate.
It does look like there's a racial disparity that's in this. And in reality, we realize that we have to do a better job in finding better sources that are going to show more accurate numbers, particularly for the Native American population within Great Falls. So that's something we are reevaluating and looking at again to make sure that we're getting the correct numbers to balance this out.
GFPD also mentioned the possibility of a public forum in the future, although it's not clear how that would be structured. If you have questions or comments regarding the soon-to-be public data, they encourage you to call their non-emergency number. Well, coming up here on Montana this morning, some Montanans are receiving seeds in the mail. We'll tell you why it's odd and what to watch out for next.
Your weather forecast as high pressure continues to build. We are seeing conditions start to kind of dry out on us. Drought not terrible. It's more or less concentrated down into southwestern Montana. And unfortunately, that's where the storms will be. And you got a little bit of lightning associated with those storms. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. But overall, not too bad. More on your forecast is coming up very shortly.
From MTN News, you're watching Montana This Morning.
Welcome back. A live look over the capital city on this Tuesday morning. It's July 28th. We're glad to have you along. Thanks for watching Montana This Morning. Well, some people in Montana and across the nation say they've been receiving mysterious packages from China over the last few weeks. The content of these packages, unknown plant seeds. The Montana Department of Agriculture confirmed at least 5 people received these packages of unwanted or contaminated seed. It's against the law in Montana, but it also creates the risk of introducing noxious weeds into the environment.
Unknown seeds represent a risk to agriculture, to horticultural plants and native species, because we don't know anything about those seeds. They could have unknown plant pathogens, they could have unknown viruses, and so we definitely wouldn't want to plant any of those seeds in the ground, and we wouldn't really want to even throw those seeds away. So we wouldn't want them to end up in a landfill and grow somewhere in Montana.
So if you received a package of seeds, you're encouraged to contact the Montana Department of Agriculture. You should report any unsolicited seeds received in the mail by contacting the department. Meanwhile, the Montana Department of Justice and the Better Business Bureau are receiving reports of scams related to COVID-19. MTN's John Riley has more on what people should watch out for during the pandemic.
In times of crisis, people often come together to help each other out, but there are some who take advantage of the situation.
Unfortunately, the scammers and the fraud artists look for opportunities during a crisis when there's fear and concern to unfortunately prey on our citizens.
The Montana Department of Justice has received reports of a wide variety of scams trying to exploit the pandemic. Scammers have tried to price gouge COVID supplies like face masks and hand sanitizer, and Montanans have also reported receiving calls from individuals impersonating COVID contact tracers. Tracers will call people to let them know they may have been exposed to COVID, but will only ask for a person's name and address.
They may ask you for more information, and that's your key to know that they're likely a scammer. They may ask for your social security number. Don't give it. They may ask for personal banking information or perhaps a credit card, or they'll seek payment for their services.
Many COVID tests are at no cost or covered by a person's insurance. If there are costs associated, that will be addressed at the testing site. Those re-entering the job force should also be careful and ensure the website they're submitting their application to is legitimate. The Better Business Bureau says employment scams have been some of the riskiest scams in recent years, especially for individuals who are already struggling after losing their job to COVID.
According to our data, nearly 75% of the people who were caught in an employment scam already did not have the money to cover their bills. Additionally, 53% of the people that we talked to said that they were looking for a job because they didn't have one. So this wasn't a secondary source of income.
Job seekers should seek out a jobs website on their own, never following a link. Local job service offices can also assist individuals in finding work with a credible employer. Reporting from Helena, John Riley, MTN News.
And anyone who believes they've been contacted by a scammer or is the victim of a scam should file a complaint with the Office of Consumer Protection.
Well, up next to your weather forecast, we are tracking high pressure all week long. That's allowing for a hot and toasty forecast for us. Looking back at yesterday's almanac, 89 was the daytime high. Average temperatures would be at 86. We're going to continue to trend above average over the next few days. As for Great Falls, here today by the noon hour, we should be in the mid-80s, hitting the early 90s this afternoon. The almanac in the capital yesterday, 96 toasty degrees. Average would be 88. And a look at today's hour-by-hour trend, well into the 80s and 90s. Your forecast is next.
Stormtracker Weather starts now with Jason Laird.
Good morning, friends. Thanks for joining us here on a Tuesday morning. Well, 59 already in Great Falls, much more mild though in the capital, 67 degrees as you're heading out the door. You'll notice a little bit of moisture already spilling into southwestern Montana. This afternoon and evening, we will see a little bit of an increased chance of some showers and thunderstorms in that region. But really the big talking point, still big ridge of high pressure built over top of the state here today. And you'll notice as that ridge shifts just a little bit further east, a couple of of showers, thunderstorms not out of the question, primarily though into south central Montana, just a few isolated cells over the mountains. 94 for your daytime high today, looking well into the 90s, flirting with the triple digits throughout the eastern plains. Overnight lows tonight, almost a carbon copy of last night, trending at about 59, hopefully staying a little bit cooler compared to this last evening in the capital at 59 as well, and looking at the mid 60s for overnight lows in northeastern Montana. Tomorrow, I went ahead and removed that high pressure ridge icon, but I left the little pressure lines on here because I wanted to show you the possibility of some storms that are going to be moving in. So high pressure is going to continue to build here tomorrow. Most of the storms are going to stay down into south central Montana. Later in the afternoon, a couple little speckles over the mountains there. On Wednesday, we'll have a better chance of those systems making it to Great Falls, but again, very similar to today. Most of them are going to stay over the mountains and kind of remain along the Rocky Mountain front into southwestern Montana. 92 degrees on Wednesday for your daytime high, 88 in the capital, and looking at the mid-90s in northeastern Montana as well. On Thursday, a couple of triple digits out to our west. As for central Montana, though, low 90s, well into the 90s throughout the eastern plains again on Thursday. And really what we've got going on for the tail end of the weekend here is that ridge of high pressure is just going to continue to build across the state, allowing for clear skies and very hot weather. Now, the reason we're seeing that almost everyday possibility of some afternoon showers, thunderstorms is because of this area of low pressure off of the coast. It's firing just enough energy our way, just enough moisture, and that's kind of helping to potentially kick up some of those showers and thunderstorms over top of the mountains, which again, with the fire concern out there and the dry weather, something we definitely want to keep our eye on. As we head to the next 7 days, again, 94 degrees today, partly cloudy. A little bit of an increase in those clouds here today as a little bit more moisture rolls in, staying well into the 90s up through the weekend here in Great Falls. As for the capital, 91 today. A few more clouds. Again, a little bit cooler on Wednesday due to that cloud cover, but then right back to the 90s to wrap up the work week. Lewistown, 90 degrees today. Couple showers, thunderstorms, not out of the question. Partly cloudy tomorrow and a little bit cooler, but staying hot as we wind through the remainder of the work week there well into the 90s. And as for Glasgow, looking at 94 today, mostly cloudy then tomorrow, but we're still going to stay hot with temperatures peaking there at about 97 degrees, Shannon.
Time now is 5:49. Still to come on Montana this morning, the countdown is on to a new mission launch. Those details are next.
From MTN News, you're watching Montana This Morning.
Welcome back. It's 5:52 here on your Tuesday morning. Well, the search for life on Mars continues with the launch of a new rover set to take off for the Red Planet this week. NASA is hoping to launch its latest rover, Perseverance, this Thursday, July 30th.
Yeah, if conditions are just right, the rover will take off from, on a rocket, I should say, from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. Is it really Air Force Station, Air Force Base? Anyways, in Florida, and embark on a more than 62.5 million mile journey to Mars. Once there, Perseverance will study the geology and the climate of the planet to help find signs of ancient microbial life. Scientists are also hoping that the rover will test new technology to one day send humans to Mars. Perseverance is expected to land on the Red Planet in February of 2021.
Forget how long it takes to get to travel that far.
Just a while.
So this will become NASA's 5th rover to explore our neighboring planet. The last one to do so was Curiosity. That rover is still sending us selfies and some other incredible images.
Yeah,
wow.
Pretty cool to see. Yeah, that's a bit of a hike.
A little bit of a hike. Yeah, I don't know why I think like
62.5 million miles.
Send it into space. It'll be there in a few days. Yeah, no, not till February.
Yeah, little bit of a hike up there. What always gets me is like the amount of, planning that has to go into just getting it from point A to point B. And I mean, one calculation off and you're done.
Missing Mars entirely.
Millions of dollars, just whoop, there it went. Yeah. Too bad.
Yeah.
Start over. Yeah,
it'll be really interesting though to see what this one comes up with.
No kidding. I'm glad that the Space Force is all up and cooking again there. Is that, I don't know, is it called the Space Force now?
I don't think that's it yet. This is just NASA, I think, for now.
Anyways, all right, today's allergy forecast pretty much unchanged from yesterday. Grass is going to be the big one here as conditions continue to dry out. Trees, right around moderate, trying to keep an eye on the cotton out there. It's definitely there, but not as bad. Mold and ragweed relatively low here. Fishing forecast over the next few days, well, hot and sunny. That's not really going to change much. There is a possibility of some spotty storms pretty much every week. I'm struggling this morning. Every day this week in the afternoon and evening, but very minimal coverage on those storms. Very, very isolated, just overall hot and sunny conditions. So today's forecast, 94 degrees in Great Falls, 91 in the capital, mid-90s in Glasgow, and looking at 91 in Cut Bank as well.
Well, don't go away. Your Farm and Ranch Report with the Montana Ag Network is next. Coming up this half hour on Montana This Morning, decision time. City commissioners come to a conclusion on school resource officers for the fall semester in Helena. Plus,
what happens if your child's school shuts down because of a COVID outbreak and you can't go to work? Coming up, we take a closer look at the laws that could help you keep your job if you're forced to stay home with your kids.
and later, keep your garden going during this July heat. Montana This Morning starts now.
From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Good morning. Thanks for being with us here on this Tuesday. I'm Shannon Newth.
I'm Jason Laird. Yeah, I was out watering yesterday. A little bit extra. Yeah.
Yeah, I have some, flower pots and stuff.
How are they doing?
Well, they this time of year, basically every year, they start to just get the heat. The sun just beats down on them. So I have, fertilizer and dumping lots of extra water on them. But if I don't keep up with it for like a day, then they
Yeah, this is going to be the week you definitely want to fire up those sprinklers a little extra if you can, just for the simple fact it's going to remain hot.
Yeah.
So as you're heading out the door here this morning, we are still keeping our eye on fire variables. Thankfully, we're not really dealing with much in the way of wind, so that's not really an issue. And the fuel load out there, yes, there is some dry vegetation, most of which is in southwestern Montana, so not terrible, at least in a good chunk of central Montana. So still keeping an eye on those. Currently, though, as you're heading out the door, 62 in Great Falls right now. The wind is calm, humidity at about 53%. As for the capital right now, 70 degrees already. So looking at a little break in the clouds there. We will see slightly cloudy skies here today, as a little bit of moisture tries to track into the region. This weekend, still looking hot for us. Sneak peek into that. Looking at the low 90s, sunny skies on Saturday, low 90s as well on Sunday, and still sunny and hot. Weather headlines, high pressure is going to continue to dictate our forecast this week. We are tracking a storm potential pretty much every afternoon and evening, most of which will remain over the mountains in southwestern Montana. More on your forecast is coming up. Shannon.
All right, Jason, thanks. Time now is 6:02. Congress is racing to agree on and pass a new coronavirus relief bill before a month-long recess in August. Republicans unveiled details on their plan, the HEALS Act. It stands for Health, Economic Assistance, Liability Protection, and Schools. It includes another round of stimulus checks, reduces enhanced unemployment benefits to $200, and allocates billions for testing and reopening schools. The bill is expected to evolve quite a bit in the next few days as Republicans and Democrats craft a final bill they can all agree on and that gets the White House's approval. Right now, Montana has 1,195 active cases of COVID-19. 41 new cases were reported yesterday. Cascade County has 71 active cases. Lewis and Clark has 70. Hill County has 25, and Teton County now has 0 active cases. 2,182 people have recovered so far. The Helena City Commission has decided to continue the school resource officer program for 1 year and conduct an extended review of the program before proposing a new model for the future. The commission backed a proposal from Commissioner Emily Dean. It calls for the city to maintain armed officers in Helena Public Schools for now and for staff to work on an updated agreement with the Helena School District to take effect by June 30th of 2021. It came after they voted 3-2 against the proposal from Commissioner Heather O'Loughlin that would have ended the SRO program on December 31st. Last month, the commission temporarily delayed $292,000 in funding for the Helena Police Department until after a community discussion on the SRO program. City leaders heard testimony for and against school resource officers during 2 public meetings earlier this month. Supporters say SROs improve school safety and form important relationships with many students. Opponents say they aren't necessary for security and that they create a less welcoming environment, particularly for Black and Indigenous students. Well, what happens when your child gets sick and you can't work? What if your child's school shuts down because of a COVID outbreak? There are questions that families are struggling with as this new school year approaches. And this morning, as many of you think about getting children safely back to school, Chris Conti takes a closer look at parents' rights when it comes to jobs and family.
And the yard's been a godsend.
Okay.
The constant back and forth of a summer consumed with COVID
This has been a summer of popsicles.
has left Acacia Clark and her 3 boys stuck in a state of uncertainty.
I made a decision early on that I was going to try to keep working, and it's been mostly leaving them to their own devices.
This realtor and her husband are both still working, but juggling her business and the kids has proven nearly impossible.
My focus, for my work has been abysmal. So I haven't been able to focus. I'll get in, a few minutes here, a few minutes there, but it's very stressful.
As empty classrooms start to fill back up, Acacia and other parents across the country are stuck, wondering what might happen if their kids catch COVID and they can't work. Chris Fuedo is an employment attorney.
If kids can't go back to school, parents can't go back to work full time.
In March, Congress passed the Family's First Coronavirus Response Act. It gives parents 2 weeks of paid sick leave if you find yourself having to quarantine. Parents also get 2 weeks of paid sick leave at 2/3 your regular salary if your child's school or daycare shuts down because of COVID. And it guarantees 10 weeks of leave at 2/3 your salary if you need to take care of a sick child. Those benefits will run out on December 31st. Another big problem facing parents right now, many have already exhausted all of their leave. So if you do find yourself having to ask your boss for more flexibility, the best advice is to have a plan.
Come up with your plan and say, hey, listen, this is the most that I can do for my employer, or this is how I can do everything I need to do for the employer while still be there for my family.
It's more than being stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's just being in a hard place constantly and not even having a light at the end of the tunnel.
And with a new school year on the horizon, Acacia Clark and parents everywhere are trying to manage whatever the pandemic throws their way.
This is a new normal for years to come.
I'm Chris Conti reporting.
And it's important to note that under the Family's First Coronavirus Response Act, it's illegal to fire someone because they need to take care of their family due to COVID. Well, Heartbeat Public Schools has created a plan to deliver K-12 instruction for this upcoming academic school year. Heartbeat Public Schools will take a phased approach to reopening. In Phase 0, and until further notice provided by the Blackfeet Tribe, the district will offer distance learning services with a constant monitoring of developments in this ongoing pandemic. We spoke with Mike Tatsy, who's the superintendent of Heartbeat. He tells us education has been essential, but the well-being of kids is their top priority. Tatsy says each student should have a Chromebook with them to take home and are working on setting up areas with hotspots and are even prepared to pay for internet access at different homes. The city of Helena has named 3 finalists for the city manager position. The next steps will include a tour of the city and meeting with city staff, community stakeholders, and commissioners. Finalists include Rachel Harlow-Schalk. Schalk is currently the Deputy Director of Local Government for the state of Colorado. She's been with the state of Colorado since 2014 and previously worked for the city of Westminster, Colorado, and holds a Master of Arts in Political Science from the University of Colorado. Candidate number 2 is Kenneth Haskin. Haskin's a city manager of Texarkana, Arkansas. He's worked in local government for 2 decades and has been with Texarkana since 2008. Haskin also has experience working for nonprofits and holds a Master of Public Administration degree from Webster University. And the third finalist is Troy Smith, the Deputy City Manager of Commerce City, Colorado. Smith has 40 years of local government and law enforcement experience and has been with Commerce City since 2013. Previously served as that city's police chief. Smith holds a Master of Science in Management from Regis University and is a graduate of the FBI National Academy. The public will be able to watch the commission interview the candidates via Zoom on August 15th. Well, it's Tuesday morning here on Montana This Morning. Time now is 6:09. Coming up, some good news for sports teams in Montana. More is coming up next in Game Changers. We'll have that in just a moment.
And later in your weather forecast, it's staying hot and dry for us. If you did want to head out on the river, Missouri River near Cascade, we're tracking the low 90s in this region. Cubic feet per second sitting at about 55, 80, and the height dropping down a little bit to just over 7 feet. More on your forecast is coming up shortly.
From MTN News, you're watching Montana This Morning.
Welcome back, 6:12 now on this Tuesday morning. We're glad to have you along. You're looking live out over the capital city. Well, our sports team received some good news this week when the MHSA released return to play protocols. So while Tom and Cece Wiley are counting down the days until high school sports return, they've added a few more sports highlights in this week's Game Changers.
Hey everybody, we're thrilled about the news that high school sports might be moving forward in the state of Montana. We got Friday nights upcoming. Cece and I are so thrilled we found some of our favorite moments, and we're going to put them together for you in our top 5 moments of the week. Yay! We've started creating our own sports in the Wiley household. Check out Cece's skills when it comes to stacking rings. At number 5, real sports. The women's amateur tournament in Bozeman. Here's champion Annika Dannenhauer finding the range for birdie on the par 3 16th hole. The MSU sophomore would go on to win by 5 strokes. At number 4, Lewis and Clark County 4-H held its annual livestock sale with animals going at a good price. All the hard work these kids put in during the year finally paying off. At number 3, the first food truck frenzy in Great Falls was a success. In addition to delicious food, donations and essential items went to benefit Stand Up for Students. At number 2, the Facebook group Medical Mask for Great Falls was recognized by the City Commission this week after it went from 10 members to over 900. They've all contributed masks for first responders and other charitable organizations. And at number 1, Major League Baseball returned this week, and Missoula native Cody Hoyer became just the 24th Montana-born player to suit up for a big league team when he pitched a perfect inning of relief in the White Sox season opener. Please send us your video. Just shoot us an email to sports@krtv.com or homehhighlights@krtv.com. Cece and I will do our best to feature them every Monday on Game Changers. Reporting from home, Tom Wiley, Cece Wiley, MTN News.
The Montana Grizzlies have already had one home non-conference football game canceled in 2020. Now a second game is up in the air. UM is scheduled to take on Morehead State at Washington Grizzly Stadium on September 19th. But the Pioneer Football League announced on Monday the cancellation of all non-conference competition. However, not long after the announcement, Montana issued a statement saying Morehead State Athletic Director Jamie Gordon informed UM's athletic director that Morehead State intends to obtain a waiver from the Pioneer League to play the Montana-Morehead State game as scheduled. While this game remains in limbo, Montana's non-conference game and season opener is at Missouri State on September 12th.
Well, up next in your weather forecast, hot and dry conditions continue this week. Looking at your fire weather forecast for Great Falls. This afternoon, we are going to be getting into the 90s for daytime highs, and you'll notice those humidity levels really starting to drop, at least wind not a factor for our region here. As for the capital, again, temperatures climbing this afternoon, humidity levels also dropping into the teen percentage points as well, but not much in the way of wind. Your forecast is coming up very shortly.
Stormtracker Weather starts now with Jason Laird.
Overall, we're tracking a very mild start to the day, currently sitting at 66 in the capital. That's actually backed off a little bit compared to where we were about an hour ago. It's 59 right now in Great Falls, looking at the upper 50s in northeastern Montana. You'll notice a little bit of moisture trying to make its way into southwestern Montana. We will continue to see the chance of a few afternoon showers and thunderstorms over the next couple of days. High pressure will really amplify throughout the eastern plains as it shifts a little bit further east today. We will see an increase in cloud cover for a good chunk of our area, especially into southwestern Montana, as that next little batch of moisture tries to track into the region. Most of those storms, though, are going to stay into south central Montana, but of course that's the very dry region, so any lightning over that area have to keep a very close eye on. 94 for your forecast today, 91 in the capital, flirting with the triple digits throughout the eastern plains, staying very mild again for overnight lows. Hopefully a little bit cooler in the capital here tonight compared compared to last night. 59 there, same story for Great Falls. 59 is kind of the magic number for a good chunk of our area, staying in the mid-60s for overnight lows in northeastern Montana. I went ahead and removed that high pressure ridge just so you could kind of see where the storms are anticipated to move through the state on Wednesday, but you'll notice these little white lines, those are the pressure levels, continuing to see that high pressure build tomorrow, kind of moving tonight's moisture a little bit further east as the day plays out. But yet again, tomorrow afternoon, some scattered showers, thunderstorms not out of the question. A little bit better chance that tomorrow's systems will make it to Great Falls, most of which again concentrated over the mountains in southwestern Montana. We'll see daytime highs tomorrow at 92 degrees, a little bit cooler in southwestern Montana due to those passing storms and a bit of an increase in the cloud cover, and looking at the low to mid 90s throughout the eastern plains. And on Thursday, we'll bump those eastern plains temperatures back well into the 90s, low 90s still here for a good chunk of central Montana. Off to our west, though, looking at the triple digits there. So the big story again on Thursday is that high pressure ridge will continue to amplify. This area of low pressure off of the coast is going to try to fire a little bit of energy our way and draw a little bit of moisture our way, most of which is going to stay to our north, but that's what's going to present that chance of afternoon showers and thunderstorms pretty much every day this week. Again, very minimal coverage, very isolated, only about a 20% shot for most areas, so can't rule them out, but they're going to stay very, very isolated. High pressure takes us through the weekend, allowing for the hot, dry, and rather mild conditions to continue. Over the next 6 to 10 days, we are looking at warmer than average temperatures to continue. So again, that's telling us that ridge is going to pretty much stay camped out for the extended period here, and the dry conditions continue for pretty much all of Montana. Over the next few days, here's how it all comes together. 94 today, a little bit of an increase in cloud cover compared to yesterday, but still hanging tight to the 90s all week. As for the capital, 91 today, a little bit cooler Wednesday with the increase in clouds, and then back to the 90s. Shannon.
All right, Jason, thanks. Those 90-degree temperatures, of course, can take a toll on people and pets. It also can affect our plants and trees. Gardening experts at 40 Nursery say watering plants, trees, and shrubs is key during this heat. They say plants with those deep root systems need more water than a sprinkler system can provide. They advise bringing out the gardening hose, putting it on low, and letting the water sink into the ground. 40 Nursery also says to be wary of wind, which can cause plants to dry out. One thing that helps keep trees and shrubs healthy and hydrated is mulch.
It helps keep that moisture in, so when you do water, it holds the moisture in a little bit longer than it typically would if you didn't have the mulch around, and it also just overall keeps that root system more cool.
And potted and porch plants need plenty of water every day. Well, still to come here on Montana This Morning, it's time to celebrate some birthdays. Stay with us.
From MTN News, you're watching Montana This Morning.
And welcome back. Thanks for spending your Tuesday with us. 6:27 on the clock, and time now for birthdays. No anniversaries, just birthdays.
No anniversaries. 2 birthdays to celebrate today. Let's get to that first one for Caleb Doney. Caleb, happy 25th birthday, brother. It says, I love you and have a great day. Mom would be proud of you. I know she is smiling down from heaven. So happy birthday, Caleb.
And happy birthday to Miguel Perez. Happy 17th birthday from Mom and Bob. We love you. So big birthday there as well.
Yeah, enjoy your day, and you can submit yours. Just head to our website. There's a tab now up on the homepage of our website.
Really?
Just says birthdays,
Ooh,
anniversaries. Makes it quick and easy for you.
There you go. Yeah, get them in nice and early, and of course we'll get them in on the show for you. All right, as you're heading out the door here this morning, we are still tracking fire weather. About the only major, well, not even major, but elevated concern is going to be into north central Montana in and around Cutbank. So this particular forecast graphic, it combines humidity level, temperature, and wind, puts those all together, and then shows us the areas of concern. So the area you're looking at there near Cutbank, that's going to be the kind of elevated area here as the afternoon plays out. So to give you the details of that, temperatures are going to be well into the 80s. And then as you notice, the humidity level drops to about 17% as the temperature increases, and wind in this area is sitting right at about 15 miles per hour for Cutbank. So just kind of keep that in mind, elevated fire concern there. As for today's forecast, 94 in Great Falls. As you notice, we will see a bit of an increase in cloud cover here today as a couple of showers and thunderstorms try to break into the area, but overall just a hot forecast as we head through the work week.
Stay with us. Montana This Morning continues in just a couple of minutes. Coming up this half hour on Montana This Morning, decision time. City commissioners come to a conclusion on school resource officers for the fall semester in Helena. Plus, the Great Falls Police Department plans to release more information about traffic stops. And later, keep an eye out for scams, what to watch out for as fraudsters try to take advantage of you during the pandemic. Montana This Morning starts now.
From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Good morning. Thanks for making us a part of your Tuesday. We're glad to have you along. I'm Shannon Newth.
I'm Jason Laird. Kind of a broken record sort of forecast over the next couple of days. We've got a massive high pressure ridge that's literally just camped out, you know, freeloading.
Hanging out.
Not going anywhere, and that's basically dictating our forecast, hot and dry, as we head through the work week here. So
we'll take it for the time being, as long as we can try to keep the fire danger at bay a little bit.
So far not terrible. I mean, definitely keeping our eye on those fire variables. 62 as you're heading out the door in Great Falls. Humidity level at about 53%. Not bad at this hour. 70 in the capital. Man, we've been very close to the highest overnight low ever recorded.
Wow.
I think that was 75 degrees is what the Weather Service was saying this morning. 47% is the humidity level there. As for Lewistown, sitting at 60 degrees, a little bit of wind out of the east at about 10 miles per hour. Beautiful sunrise as always. And we are going to see a bit of an increase in clouds today. You can see some of those high-level clouds already kind of rolling in and around Geyser as well. That's just a little bit of a storm system that's going to try to make an appearance, but not have a lot of impacts this afternoon. So overall, very hot all week. Your fishing conditions looking pretty darn good for us. Again, high pressure remains the big talking point. There is, again, that storm potential pretty much every afternoon and evening this week as just a little bit of moisture tries to spill into the region. We'll talk more about that coming up very shortly. Shannon.
Jason, thank you. Time now is 6:32. Right now, there are 1,195 active cases of COVID-19 in Montana. 41 new cases were reported yesterday. Cascade County has 71 active cases. Lewis and Clark has 70, and Hale County has 25. Teton County has now dropped down to 0 active cases. 2,182 people have recovered so far. And across the country, 147,000 deaths have been attributed to COVID-19 out of nearly 4.3 million confirmed cases. The fight against the disease did reach a milestone when the final stage of testing of an experimental vaccine by Moderna got underway Monday. It's being administered to 30,000 volunteers around the country. Half will receive the vaccine, the other half will get a placebo. Carroll College has announced initial COVID testing plans for students returning this fall. Funding has been allocated for a COVID-19 test for every student as they return to campus. The college says the firm that they're using has guaranteed a 48-hour turnaround for results of the tests. Each student is also asked to complete a 14-day quarantine prior to their arrival for the fall semester. The current move-in schedule has students arriving August 14th and 15th on a staggered schedule. The school will also be requiring masks on campus and social distancing in classrooms and the dining hall.
Testing is an important part of the plan, but testing is one part of several planks of the plan. Make sure that we provide students and parents and families and the community of Helena really the opportunity to know that we're doing the best that we can to make sure that we move forward.
The college hopes to combine this initial testing with ongoing testing of groups of asymptomatic students. Details are still being finalized and more information will be made available in the next week. Montana's high schools woke up to some good news on Monday morning as the Montana High School Association announced it's moving forward with fall activities. The MHSA released the guidelines. The governing body of the Montana High School Sports announced a 5-tier plan. The number of fans will be determined by each school. Officials say guidelines will lead to a successful athletic year for Montana's schools and athletes.
Tier 1, we're starting. We have all these restrictions and requirements and considerations in place. But let's say we have an interruption, then we can look at Tier 2 where we're going to cancel non-conference games. If we have a longer interruption, then we can look at Tier 3 where we cancel all non-conference games and shorten the conference schedules. Tier 4 would be even a longer, maybe we start and play for quite a while and then get a real long interruption. Then we're going to have to look at shortening that conference season, maybe even ending it at that time, and look at different playoff formats. You know, are we going to have divisional and district volleyball tournaments at one side, or are we going to do a playoff? Tier 5 is where it's been, you know, maybe a tough year like this spring was, but we can maybe have some kind of play at the end and maybe even look at a postseason.
For all the information on how the plan will work, you can head to montanasports.com. The Helena City Commission has decided to continue the School Resource Officer program for 1 year. They plan to conduct an extended review of the program before proposing a new model for the future. MTN's Jonathan Ambarian reports on what the next steps will be after this decision.
After about a month of considering the future of the 4 armed police officers in Helena Public Schools, the Helena City Commission has decided not to make an immediate change in the School Resource Officer program this year, and to plan to update the city's agreement with the district by next school year. They backed a proposal by Commissioner Emily Dean, who said stakeholders like the school district, mental health providers, students, and families needed more time to work together on a new plan for the future. Dean's proposal does not guarantee an end to the SRO program.
This puts it in the district's hands and the stakeholders' hands to decide what the path forward is. If that means, all stakeholders come to the table and at the end we say we are going to redefine what the role of SROs are in schools, great. If it means the district says, you know what, maybe we do just need 2 SROs, great.
This came after the commission voted 3-2 against a proposal from Commissioner Heather O'Loughlin that would have definitively ended the SRO program after December 31st and directed 2 additional patrol officers to focus on schools. O'Loughlin said she's concerned after this extended process, there won't be substantial enough changes to address the concerns advocates have raised.
My sense is that the desire may be to maintain physical police presence in schools. And I think it's unfortunate that we couldn't really make a clear statement today about that.
Opponents of SROs have said the officers aren't needed for security and that they create a less welcoming environment, particularly for Black and Indigenous students. Supporters of the program argued SROs do improve safety and that they form important relationships with students. In Helena, Jonathan Ambarian, MTN News.
After the Black Lives Matter Forum in Great Falls this weekend, the Great Falls Police Department addressed some concerns surrounding traffic stop data in the city. The department typically doesn't publish their year-end reports online, but that'll be changing soon. GFPD Public Information Officer Lieutenant Doug Otto told MTN that those reports should be available online by the end of this week. Data will go back at least the last 2 to 3 years, possibly as far back as 2014. They're also evaluating how they collect data to make sure those reports are accurate.
It does look like there's a racial disparity that's in this. And in reality, we realize that we have to do a better job and finding better sources that are going to show more accurate numbers, particularly for the Native American population within Great Falls. So that's something we are reevaluating and looking at again to make sure that we're getting the correct numbers to balance this out.
GFPD also mentioned the possibility of a public forum in the future. It's not clear right now how that would be structured. If you have questions or comments about this soon-to-be released public data, they encourage you to call their non-emergency number. Well, the Back Alley Pub in Great Falls announced on Facebook they will not reopen due to coronavirus. Pub manager Mike Chassie posted this statement on Facebook. He told MTN News that the owner's decision to close the pub was due in part to concerns about being able to keep patrons safe if they had reopened.
He was worried about insurance and potential lawsuits if somebody caught it at the bar because the place is so small. So it would have been tough for us to reopen for sure with the size of the place, and to socially distance people and all of that stuff would have been pretty tough.
And the pub thanked all the bands, artists, and patrons that have supported them over the last few years. It's Tuesday morning here on Montana This Morning. Time now is 6:40 and still to come. Some Montanans are receiving seeds in the mail. We'll tell you why it's odd and what to watch out for next.
And later in your weather forecast, high pressure continues to offer up hot and dry conditions. If you wanted to do a little fly fishing today, Bell Creek near Monarch, we're looking hot and sunny. Highs in the high 80s for the most part, cubic feet per second at about 130, and river height continuing to drop below 3 feet. More on your forecast is coming up shortly.
From MTN News, you're watching Montana This Morning.
Welcome back. We're so glad you could join us here on Montana This Morning on this Tuesday. A live look over the capital city. Time now is 6:42. People in Montana and across the nation say they've been receiving mysterious packages from China over the last few weeks. The content of these packages, unknown plant seeds. The Montana Ag Network's Lane Nordland shares more.
It came in a simple envelope shipped by a China post.
The Montana Department of Agriculture confirmed at least 5 residents received packages of seed. Receiving unwanted or contaminated seed is against the law in Montana, but it also creates the risk of introducing noxious weeds into the environment.
Unknown seeds represent a risk to agriculture, to horticultural plants and native species because we don't know anything about those seeds. They could have unknown plant pathogens, they could have unknown viruses, and so we definitely wouldn't want to plant any of those seeds in the ground, and we wouldn't really want to even throw those seeds away. So we wouldn't want them to end up in a landfill and grow somewhere in Montana.
If you receive a package of seeds, contact the Montana Department of Agriculture.
So if we have that packaging information that came with the seeds, we can work with our USDA partners to analyze that pathway of where those seeds are coming from, how those unknowing customers are being identified. So it'd be really important to get those seeds identified and then also have the packaging if anyone's receiving unsolicited seed shipments in Montana.
In addition to natural resource worries, there's also concern for identity theft, as this could be considered a brushing scam, a deceitful e-commerce technique where a vendor sends an unsolicited product to a verified address to submit positive online reviews unbeknownst to the receiver. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Lane. Meanwhile, the Montana Department of Justice has received reports of a wide variety of scams trying to exploit the pandemic. Scammers have tried to price gouge COVID supplies like face masks and hand sanitizer. Montanans have also reported receiving calls from people impersonating COVID contact tracers. Those re-entering the job force should also be careful and ensure that the website they're submitting their application to is legitimate. The Better Business Bureau says employment scams have been some of the riskiest scams in recent years, especially for people who are already struggling after losing their job due to COVID.
According to our data, nearly 75% of the people who were caught in an employment scam already did not have the money to cover their bills. Additionally, 53% of the people that we talked to said that they were looking for a job because they didn't have one.
Job seekers should look at the jobs website on their own and never follow a link. Local job service offices can also assist people in finding work with a credible employer. The Flying Giant Adventure Park is trying to bring some fun back to Helena. MTN's Sam Hoyle takes a look at how they've been and planning to be successful still through COVID-19.
With the COVID-19 pandemic playing a part in all of our lives, whether keeping us cooped up or quarantined, the Flying Giant Adventure Park is moving forward after a few years of working out some of the kinks, whether it be the batting cages, the axe throwing right behind me. They said their main goal of bringing this to Helena is to increase the number of activities around the area.
The additions of the batting cages, the additions of the axe throwing, and the Flying Giant Adventure Center is going to bring some much needed activities to the Helena community.
Though they sit right next to one another, Sleeping Giant Lanes and Flying Giant Adventure Park are two separate ventures, one with years of history, the other trying to make its mark on the community. And though the COVID-19 pandemic brings its own set of challenges, the owners of Flying Giant have seen a welcome reception from the Helena community.
With everything that's going on, I think every small business is struggling right now, but the community in Helena has been great. We've had a lot of support from the community, and we've been fairly busy.
Now, as you can see, I'm standing outside in the axe throwing bay here at Flying Giant Adventure Park. Brand new, freshly opened. Nice right now in the tail end of July. A little bit of sun, a little bit of breeze. But the owners of Flying Giant Adventure Park told me they plan to have buildings in place for the batting cages, the axe throwing bay, and the under construction Adventure Park before the end of the year. Reporting in Helena, Sam Hoyle, MTN News.
Well, up next, your weather forecast continuing to track high pressure across the region, really pushing the temperatures, keeping things dry for us. So fire variables today, still very hot, still low humidity levels, not really dealing with much wind. And again, we are drying out, but not a major concern as of yet. As you're heading out the door here this morning around 8 a.m., 66 degrees in Great Falls, looking at the mid-80s around the noon hour. Hot this afternoon with an increase in clouds as a little bit of a weather maker tries to move in, warming up in the capital. Your forecast is next.
Stormtracker Weather starts now with Jason Laird.
Good morning, everyone. Hopefully your day's off to a great start. A very mild start to the day temperature-wise. 59 degrees in Great Falls. This morning it was even warmer than that, believe it or not, in the capital. Currently we're sitting at 66 degrees. Little bit of moisture trying to track into southwestern Montana. That will increase the storm potential later in the day. Big story again today. High pressure continues to build across the eastern plains here. As it shifts a little bit further east, it is going to open up the door for a little bit more of that South Pacific moisture to try and move into the state. Biggest impact is just going to be a little bit of an increase in cloud cover, some spotty isolated showers and thunderstorms over the mountains, most of which are going to stay down into south central Montana. Today's forecast 94 toasty degrees out there, 91 in the capital, and looking at the upper 90s, trying to flirt with the triple digits throughout the eastern plains as well. Overnight lows on the mild side, hopefully a little bit more cool in the capital tonight compared to last night. 59 in Great Falls. That seems to be kind of the magic number for a good chunk of central Montana, and then the mid-60s for overnight lows in northeastern Montana. Tomorrow we still got high pressure. I removed it from the map so you could kind of see where the storms are going to be moving around, but really these little white lines again are pressure levels. You'll notice that high pressure is going to continue to build, move that remaining moisture off to our east. However, tomorrow another little round of some showers and thunderstorms are expected to kick up into southwestern Montana. A little bit better chance of some of those storms making it a little bit further north tomorrow. That's going to keep us a little bit cooler with some of those passing storms, increase in cloud cover into southwestern Montana. Backing off temperatures a little tiny bit, 92 in Great Falls, 88 in the capital, and looking at the mid-90s in northeastern Montana. But again, pushing those degrees up a couple of notches on Thursday, 93 in Great Falls, 92 in the capital, upper 90s again on Thursday for eastern Montana. As we look at the extended on Thursday, the reason for the bump in temperatures, that high pressure is really going to continue to amplify. Now, the reason we're seeing kind of those consistent possibilities for afternoon showers and thunderstorms is this area of low pressure off the coast is firing a little bit of energy our way. And for the most part, this high pressure ridge is going to hold all of that off, but that will still present the chance of afternoon showers, thunderstorms over the mountains. High pressure ridge is going to stick with us into the weekend, really keeping us hot and dry over the extended period. And you'll notice even into Monday, we're still going to see pretty dominant high pressure, maybe starting to move on its way first part of next week. 6 to 10 day outlook, still trending very, very warm across the state, much warmer than average, and dry conditions also continuing across the board. As for Great Falls today, 94 degrees. We'll look at the low 90s here for the next couple of days and then back up to the mid 90s or so by Friday. Hot and dry. Can't rule out a few little isolated storms, but for the most part dry. 91 degrees in the capital. A little bit of an increase in clouds though with some of that moisture moving in. That's going to back temperatures off Wednesday. Right back to the 90s, though, to wrap up the work week. 95 degrees in Fort Benton today. Again, a little bit of an increase in cloud cover, but still staying very, very hot in the mid to high 90s. And wrap things up in Havre, 97 today, and not really breaking that trend up through the weekend. Shannon.
Jason, thank you. It's now 6:53. Wall Street moved higher on Monday. The Dow gained 114 points. The Nasdaq rallied 173. The S&P 500 added 23. The price of gold is in record territory, climbing to more than $1,975 an ounce. The previous high was set in 2011. While stocks are also near all-time highs, investors are still searching for safe havens to park their money, while the coronavirus and U.S.-Chinese tensions loom large.
Coming up, what will it take to get a new stimulus package passed? We talked to Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. Plus, how Major League Baseball plans to continue its season after a COVID outbreak postponed some games. Coming up on CBS This Morning.
And let's get you out the door with some of the day's top stories on this Tuesday, July 28th, 2020. Montana has 1,195 active cases of COVID-19 right now. There were 41 new cases reported yesterday. Cascade County has 71 active cases. Lewis and Clark has 70. Hill County's sitting at 25. Teton County has now dropped down to 0 active cases. 2,182 people have recovered so far. The Helena City Commission has decided to continue the School Resource Officer program for 1 year and conduct an extended review of the program before proposing a new model for the future. The commission backed a proposal from Emily Dean. It calls for the city to maintain armed officers in Helena Public Schools for now, and for staff to work on an updated agreement with the Helena School District to take effect by June 30th of 2021. Montana's high schools woke up to some good news on Monday as the Montana High School Association announced it's moving forward with fall activities. The governing body of Montana high school sports announced a 5-tier plan. The number of fans will be determined by each school. And don't plant the mystery seeds. The government is investigating seed packets that are randomly showing up in people's mailboxes. Investigators think they came from China. Federal investigators say if you do get these, don't open them. Investors think the seed packets could be an invasive species. And a heads up, part of the River's Edge Trail in Great Falls is temporarily closed for construction. The sections between Black Eagle Dam and Giant Springs Road on the south side of the Missouri River. Construction should restore the trail embankment and surface back to its original condition and help prevent future landslides. It's expected to take up to 45 days.
And as you're heading out the door here bright and early this morning, allergies still a bit of an issue, especially if you're allergic to grass. And it's really going to be drying out due to the hot weather we're tracking over the next couple of days. Trees not quite as big of an issue. And an update right now on the drought conditions throughout the state. Really southwestern Montana is the only area touching into severe drought. The remainder of the state is just under mostly just dry conditions. And so that's kind of one of the factors we're keeping our eye on in the terms of the fire danger. So really in the big scheme of things, not too bad right now. Just needing to keep an eye on the mountains there into southwestern Montana. Fishing forecast over the next couple of days. Low 90s for a good chunk of our area here today. Very minimal wind. Couple spotty showers, thunderstorms not out of the question over the mountains later this evening. A little bit better chance tomorrow, but overall hot and dry all week long. So one more look at today's forecast. Great Falls, 94 degrees, the capital, 91. Staying sunny as well into northeastern Montana at 94. And Cut Bank today at 91. It's going to be a hot one. Grab some sunscreen, some water. Especially if you have plans outside.
Hat.
The wide-brimmed
Yes.
hat. Yeah, all of the above, right?
All right, well, thanks so much for joining us here on a Tuesday. Make sure to get continuous coverage throughout the day online and social media.
Yeah, we're back in about 25 minutes or so with the day's latest headlines and an updated forecast. Stick around. CBS This Morning is next. Have a great Tuesday, everyone.